Alrighty, thank you so much for your patience. Appreciate everybody being here this morning. Looks like we got ourselves a lively bunch in the chat, so I appreciate everybody for joining in. My name's CJ. Thank you for being here. If you're not subscribed to the channel yet, please go ahead and do so now. We're past 6,100 subscribers. I appreciate everybody who has subscribed to the channel. Josh Lopez, Oscar Yanez, thank you for subscribing yesterday. I appreciate my latest subscribers as always. And per usual, I'm going for 99.5 or more likes. We fell way short yesterday, but that's all right. I have faith in you guys in a bounce back day today. So smash that like button if you haven't yet. I appreciate all your support. If you're not playing on PrizePicks yet, it's a great time to do so. They're doing a 100% instant deposit match with sports like NBA playoffs, NHL playoffs, and got the MLB regular season in full swing. It's a great time to jump on the PrizePicks train. Use promo code Curry to get 100% instant deposit match on your first deposit, all the way up to $100. I've left a link for you down in the description below to get started. Appreciate everybody being here. I'm seeing a lot of chitter chatter going on in the chat room. Shout out to Drew Breeze, who's in the building. What's good to you? One of our Patreon members. You flex, and I've got to flex back. It's just the rules, and it's the way that it's going to go, you know. Todd Liffer Sunday says, good morning, all. Our guy CJ is ready to do this yet again for us. Smash that like button and always be careful betting these playoff games. Let's go. He makes a very valid point. I think the last couple of NBA slates, the last couple of nights have been a little crazy, right? Things aren't quite going as planned. But that's the NBA playoffs for you. And I've tried to caution you guys. I've tried to warn you guys, hey, you might want to dial it back a little bit. You might want to scale back how much money you're putting out on some of these NBA games because it truly is the wild, wild west right now. We don't know what's happening. From one game to the next, so much changes, right? Very volatile right now. Be mindful with your money, all right? Just be careful. There's your warning once again. Appreciate you, Todd, for reminding the folks that, hey, the NBA playoffs aren't quite like the regular season. A lot more crazy these days. Jimmy Green says, let's make some money. Another one of our Patreon members. He says, I'm tired of getting robbed and death by the hook. Ouch. We'll try to get that corrected for you. Tony Ruiz says, good morning, CJ. That blowout killed all my Golden State Memphis cards, but thank you for the MLB. Yeah, our MLB props yesterday were hitting once again. Fantasy score, some strikeout props, but you know, I've had a couple of nights in a row now where I've went 4 for 5 on my pitcher fantasy score props, where I've went like 2 for 3 on my 3-pick flex props. So I'm getting tired of these 2 for 3s, these 4 for 5s, these partial hits. I need me a big 10x, all right? Or at least a 5x. I even played some NHL last night. My man Jonathan Huberdeau, Mr. Automatic when it comes to over 2.5 shots on goal at home. Well, he ended up with 2 shots on goal. So he ruined a 4-pick for me. I went 3 for 4. He ruined a 5-pick for me. I went 4 for 5. So I got to get out of here. I got to get off this slump. You know what I mean? I got to get back to like a 5x or 10x payout. It's been a minute. We're coming close, though. I feel it. It's coming right around the corner. Mr. Everyday Fantasy says, good morning, good people. We are on a roll, and Patreon is where it is. Best place to succeed. Let's get another gainer today. If you don't know what he's talking about, there's a link down in the description below for you to join Patreon. It's a way for you to support my content, what I do for you guys here daily on YouTube. Plus, you get to join a kick butt player prop community focused on research, focused on getting down to the details and finding those winning props day in and day out. We're just all in there rolling up our sleeves trying to help each other win. That's the name of the game. The prop plug says, I'm hot. I hope you're talking about when it comes to player props. Or are you talking about your outward appearance? Maybe you're just really feeling yourself during these summer months. Travis Knott says, has anyone been cashing? It's been 2 weeks since I've won real money. Yes. Since I've stopped playing as much NBA and started playing more MLB, I've been cashing. Absolutely. My bankroll sitting pretty right now. It's been growing. Definitely been growing through baseball. Chris Smith says, let's freaking go. I'm on a heater, winning in all sports. Love to hear that, Chris. Brian says, must be nice. Jide says, that MLB free pick came in clutch. Let's see if we can avoid the elite salesmen that roam about the NBA playoffs. You ain't lying, man. There's always some Judases waiting for you out on the NBA props here lately. There's at least 1 or 2 guys that are there ready to sell. Ready to sell you out. T-Bone says, what's up, gang? Another one of our Patreon members. Shout out to T-Bone. He says, it's Throw It Back Thursday. Those 5 picks coming through today. Yeah, I'm glad you caught that because you were already making me think that it was Flip-Flop Friday, okay? Your first comment of the day in the chat had me thinking, are we really on Friday? Hold on a second. Where does this guy live? Is he in a different part of the world? Is it Friday somewhere else other than where I live? You had me doing all kind of calculations, T-Bone. You threw me for a whirl. Mo says, what's good, CJ and the gang? Hope y'all are good. Looking to bounce back after a rough night. Let's get green. Let's try to do that. Everyday Fantasy, he took some Draymond Green over 3 turnovers. Shout out to you, man. That ended up hitting for sure. Yeet King 100 says, let's go, CJ. We back. Darian says, CJ, your risk-free MLB picks almost hit. Almost doesn't count. But the good news is that it was risk-free, right? So we'll get that $25 back in our promo funds. J-Dub came through. He says, what's good, fam? Hope you tailed my Liz Cambage over fantasy score. No WNBA today, but let's get that bag today. All right. So the ladies are taking the day off. No hoops for the ladies. All right. I got you. We could make up for that with some baseball or something. No worries. We ain't too worried about that. Official Kid Chris says, CJ for president. Well, thank you. At least I know I've got one person's vote out there. Anthony Taylor's in the building, longtime supporter of everything that I've been doing. He says, smash that like button. Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Appreciate it. Trill Fate says, hell yeah, I cashed. What you think this is, man? Think this is a drought out here just because the summer's right around the corner? You think it's a drought? My man Trill Fate said he found a way to get to the bread. All right. Shout out to you, Trill Fate. All right, gang. We got 2 games going on tonight. We got a couple of teams that are, backs up against the wall. They're on the ropes. They're on the brink of elimination, right? Miami and Philadelphia. Will Miami land the knockout punch today on Philly? I don't know. We're back in Philadelphia, the city of brotherly love tonight, though. And maybe that bodes well for the Sixers. Maybe they can hang on and survive. Listen, I thought the Memphis Grizzlies were going to get knocked out last night, but damn, did they come up big. They said, hold on, Golden State. Just because Ja Morant ain't out here doesn't mean we're just going to fold up like a cheap lawn chair. They said, no. We're going to dig in. We're going to fight back against you Warriors. And so Memphis survived, and they survived in a big way. That was a pretty impressive performance by the Memphis Grizzlies. To see them fighting back like that, it's inspiring, right? So now we'll have to see what Golden State has in store for them in the next game. Keep an eye on the Miami Heat news, though. There's a lot of guys who are always questionable leading up to these Miami Heat playoff games. What typically happens is these guys end up playing. Everybody played that was on the injury report last time except for Kyle Lowry. He was ruled out. He's a game time decision as of right now. But stay on top of the Miami Heat news because you just never know, folks. You just never know what could happen from one day to the next. And then we got the late game, 9:30 p.m. tip-off. Phoenix, Dallas, 2-11 on the board here with the 2-point spread. Now they got a couple of guys who have been key contributors, key role players for both teams. Jay Crowder for the Phoenix Suns, Reggie Bullock for the Dallas Mavericks. Both kind of play a similar role for their teams, right? The 3-and-D role. Crowder, Bullock. So keep an eye on both of those guys. I haven't heard any injury news about either one of them, so it's kind of surprising for them to be on this number fire injury report as a game time decision. If you guys know anything about these guys being injured, let me know. I mean, I know Bullock was dealing with some sort of rib thing a couple games ago or whatever, but, he ended up coming back and playing through it, so I'm not too worried about these guys missing. Ricky Carroll says, esports is all I can win at. Sean Vega says, good to be back. Can we do some MLB props? Is that how you're feeling, Sean? You're ready to say, hey, let's throw in the white towel on this basketball joint? I don't know, man. I don't know if it's time to switch things up to MLB. I don't know if y'all are ready for some MLB talk just yet. Kush Ivory, what's up to you, brother? I ain't seen you in a minute. What's up? OG Kush. Cousin of Kush Ivory's in the building as well. He says, good game last night, coach. Well, had to put on without Ja Morant out there, Had to ride the backs of Tyus Jones, Desmond Bane and company. Coach my Memphis Grizzlies to another win. That Memphis Grizzlies coach wished he looked as good as I look. He wished he was this fine. He wished his beard was as dark as mine. He'll never get there. That old man's on the wrong side of 50. But I appreciate the comparison, Mr. OG Kush. I'm glad that you think I look like the Memphis Grizzlies head coach. I don't know if that's a compliment or a slap in the face, son, but I'll take it. Shout out to Julian. Julian's in the building. He's already dropping some points in here. Elijah, shout out to you. Thanks for being here as well. We got Keith Brookins in the building. Love it. He says, do you think Kyle Lowry is out tonight? I don't know, man. That's a good question. I don't think they need him per se, but having him out there would be better than not, right? We know he's a Philly kid, so I expect Kyle Lowry to try his best to strap up the shoes, to lace up the sneakers, and to be out there for the Miami Heat, being that it's a Philly game. MF June, shout out to you. He says, I haven't been up this early in some time. Let's get the bankrolls. All right. I feel you. All right, let's get down to business here. If you guys have joined me in the last few days, you know that we've been playing America's favorite Guess Who game for the NBA. It's called Poeltl. It's named after Jakob Poeltl, center of the San Antonio Spurs. And essentially, it's based off of the popular word game Wordle. So what we're going to do is we're going to guess the mystery player. You get 8 guesses. Yesterday, we ended up getting it right in just 3 guesses. It was Cam Reddish of the New York Knicks. Now, the way that this works is you get 8 guesses. Try any current NBA player. Green in any column indicates an exact match. If you get yellow in the team column, it indicates that the mystery player at one point or another played for this team, but does not currently play for that team. Yellow in the position column indicates a partial match to the mystery player's position. Yellow in any other column indicates that this attribute is within 2. That could be 2 inches in height. That could be 2 years in age. That could be 2 digits in the jersey number of the mystery player. And if you get stuck, you could throw a Hail Mary. You could reveal a silhouette of the mystery player to help you get out of a jam. Now, we haven't had to use the silhouette yet, thanks to your help out there. Let's try to see if we can figure out who today's mystery player is. Now, being that this guy's the first one on the board and he's happened to playing tonight, let's go with Jimmy Butler as our first guess and start there, see where we land. All right, not good, right? We didn't get a whole lot of matches on that one. It's definitely not Jimmy Butler. This player did, however, at one point play for the Miami Heat. This player doesn't appear to be in the Eastern Conference, which means he's not in the Southeastern Division. He is not a forward. He is shorter than 6'7". He is younger than 32 years old. And his jersey number, it's below number 22. So we got to fly out west. We know it's not going to be an Eastern Conference team. But this player did play for Miami once upon a time. Now, that doesn't really narrow things down a whole lot. Former Miami Heat, shorter than 6'7", younger than 32, under jersey number 22. Wow. Well, I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of different teams in the Western Conference. If we take a look at that, I mean, it could be any number of teams, right? Utah, Denver, Minnesota, Portland, Oklahoma City, Phoenix, Golden State, LA, Los Angeles, Sacramento. Could be Memphis, Dallas, New Orleans, San Antonio, or Houston. A lot of different options here. What about Jay Crowder? Would Jay Crowder qualify? He was once a member of the Miami Heat. Let's just start there. I mean, we're going to get a little closer. Okay. We got some green on the board. It's not Jay Crowder. This player never played for Phoenix. But now we know that he's in the Western Conference, in the Pacific Division. Not a forward. Shorter than 6'6", but he is exactly number 31. And the jersey number, Jay Crowder, I forgot, he wears number 99. A lot lower than number 99. So former Heat player, Western Conference, Pacific Division. So now that we've narrowed it down to the Pacific, we know that it's going to be not Phoenix. It could be Golden State, the Clippers, the Lakers, or the Kings. Golden State, Clippers, Lakers, Kings. Former Heat player. Not a forward. So most likely it's going to be a guard, right? Most likely going to be a guard that used to play for the Heat, that's in the Western Conference, a Pacific Division team that is not Phoenix. Exactly 31 years old. Jersey number below 22. You're saying Kendrick Nunn, Trill Fate? Kendrick Nunn could be an interesting guess. Let's take a look at Kendrick Nunn. Wait, Kendrick Nunn, hold on. Kendrick Nunn's young. He's not 31. He's younger than 31. We're not going Kendrick Nunn. Kendrick Nunn's not 31, though. Right? Kendrick Nunn's still in his, 20s. Can't be Kendrick Nunn. No, we're going back off of Kendrick Nunn. Not Kendrick Nunn. But I like that. You're close, I think, with Kendrick Nunn. But this player is exactly 31 years old, so it can't be Kendrick Nunn. Ben McLemore? Was Ben McLemore ever on the Miami Heat? I don't think he was. Not that I can remember. Who else we got for the Clippers? Guards for the Clippers, guards for the Warriors, guards for the Lakers, guards for the Kings. Mo? McLemore? I don't think McLemore was ever on the Heat. He was on the Heat? You're saying Ben McLemore was on the Heat. I don't remember him being on the Miami Heat. Y'all want to try Ben McLemore? Not Ben. So now we're looking for a guard. It's definitely a guard. He's definitely 6'3". He's older than 29. We know he's exactly 31. His jersey number got to be below number 23. Avery Bradley sounds like a solid look. Does Avery Bradley check off those boxes? Was once with the Miami Heat, right? He's definitely a guard. Why did we guess Ben McLemore? I should have vetoed that. He's in the Northwest, not the Pacific Division. Avery Bradley? Let's go Avery Bradley. Boom. We did it, gang. Avery Bradley was right, man. I almost forgot that he was with the Miami Heat, but he did spend a little time with Miami. The guy has bounced around with a lot of different teams since leaving Boston, but you got it right, man. It's Avery Bradley. I'm Roe. We had Kent Bazemore a couple nights ago, I want to say. A couple days ago, I should say. Kent Bazemore was the guy. Was Kent Bazemore ever with the Heat? I don't think so. But we got it in 4 guesses. Shout out to you guys for helping me break this down. Now that we got our brains warmed up, we can finally talk some player props. If you guys want to check this out for yourself, you can play this daily. It's Poeltl, like Jakob Poeltl, .dunk.town. If you want to play on your own, go for it. Avery Bradley, today's secret player of the day. All right, let's get down to business. Let's first start off by looking at some points props. We're going to start with game 1, the early game. Philadelphia, Miami. Again, Philadelphia is down in this series. If they lose tonight, they're going home. So we're going to take a look using props.cash at the points props. We're going to look at the playoff hit rates here, and we're going to filter it out. Just looking at the Miami-Philadelphia game, kind of get an idea of how these guys from this game have been doing in terms of hitting their points props. If you want to check out props.cash, 25% off your first month. Use code Curry. I've got a link down in the description for you to check it out. It's just $20 a month, really affordable. NBA playoffs, NHL playoffs, MLB, and once NFL comes around, I mean, you'll have access to everything. So just $20 a month, pretty doable. So anyway, points props. Tobias Harris still sitting out there at 14.5 points, 63, we'll call it a 64% hit rate throughout the playoffs this season. PJ Tucker at 6.5 points. He's got himself a 60% hit rate. Danny Green at 7.5, 54.5% hit rate for him throughout the playoffs. Max Strus finally showed up, guys. He finally showed up in the last game. Max Strus had himself a fantastic game. Even a blind squirrel finds a nut once in a while. Even a broken clock is right twice a day, and I think Max Strus finally hit his points prop. Had himself a pretty decent game. Jimmy Butler, 25.5 points, 44% hit rate for him. We got Gabe Vincent, Bam Adebayo, Tyler Herro, all at 40%. James Harden at just 36.4%. He came crashing back down to earth. I know a lot of us had questions. Is James Harden going to repeat what he did in the last game this next game? No, he didn't. All right. He came crashing down. And then you got Joel Embiid at 24.5 points on PrizePicks. He's at 25.5 according to props.cash today. Just a 33.3% hit rate in the playoffs for him. He's a little beat up. Got his face broken. He's got a messed up thumb. Joel Embiid, the process is starting to fail. He needs to do something special tonight in order for Philadelphia to hang in there. But what are we guys? What are you guys liking in terms of points props tonight? I mean, should we start with Jimmy Butler at 25.5? We could start there if you guys want to. Jimmy Butler, always going to be in play in terms of a points prop. But as I've mentioned in the past, Butler from game to game is a very frustrating puzzle to try and solve, right? You look at what he's done throughout the playoffs here. He's now appeared in 9 playoff games. He's just 4 for 9, 44%. I mean, you'll have a 21-point game, and out of nowhere, he'll come up with 45 points, then fall back down to 20, come back up to 36, 15, 22 to start this series off. Then he comes back with 33 and 40, and we're like, oh man, this is really Jimmy Buckets. Like Jimmy Buckets is really doing. And then the last game, just 23 points. Hard to trust this guy. Is he in a bounce back spot today or what? Do we think Jimmy Butler finally comes back to life in the point department? I like what the prop plug is saying. He's saying Jimmy for PRA. I agree. Jimmy for PRA or fantasy score, probably my favorite way to play Jimmy Butler. Just in case, he ends up with 20 points and like 10 assists and like 8 rebounds and a couple steals or blocks. Like fantasy score could be a good way to go with Jimmy Butler. Just looking at his other props here as far as hit rates go. Rebounds, 56% hit rate. Can't really trust him for anything. I mean, as far as inconsistencies, this guy is the definition of inconsistencies. His PRA is at 38.5 today. If you wanted to go there, I couldn't be mad at you with that one, being that he's now hitting 3 out of 5 games in this series against Philadelphia. But this dude right here, man, I just stay away from his props for the most part. I mean, if you absolutely, positively have to play Jimmy Butler for something, I would say maybe PRA or fantasy score would be my favorite ways to play Jimmy Butler. Now, we don't have any fantasy scores up yet for this game, so you'll have to wait on those. But as of right now, at the time of this live stream, maybe Jimmy Butler for PRA is your best move at 38.5. But just hard to trust him across the board, in my opinion. I mean, you look at the game logs here. He's actually missing more than he's hitting at 25.5 points. So not real big on Jimmy Butler. He's projected for 25.6 points tonight, which puts him slightly over the 25.5 marker. The betting public, they're showing some pessimism here. They don't think Jimmy Butler's going to go over 25.5 points. Early indications are that the betting public is taking the under on Jimmy buckets. But yeah, for that reason, his inconsistencies, I don't mess with Jimmy Butler a whole lot. Now, Kush Ivory's coming through saying, what about James Harden? What about big game James? No, he ain't ready for the big game. What about the beard, though? 19.5. Let's take a look at James Harden real quick. Big game James. Isn't that what they used to call James Posey? James Posey. Shout out to James Posey, one of the OG 3 and D type of guys out there. A lot of y'all may not remember James Posey, but James Posey had a little game to him. James Posey could play. Looking at James Harden, though, at 19.5 points in the playoffs this year, 5 for 11. So more often than not, he's going under 19.5 points. You want to talk about inconsistent? It looks like Christmas when you look at his game logs in the playoffs, right? A lot of green and then some red and then some more green and then red. You know what I mean? It's like up and down, up and down. So you talk about somebody that you can't trust. James Harden, hard to trust. The minutes are pretty solid for him throughout the series, though. 35 or more minutes in most of these games. The games that he's hit his points prop at 19.5, he's had to do 40 plus minutes to get there, right? 41.5, nearly 41 in this game. He's going to have to be out there for 40 plus minutes to have a chance to even have a shot to hit the over on 19.5 points. His free throws fell way off in the last game, just going 3 attempts, 2 makes on those 3 attempts. So yeah, I mean, Jimmy Butler, James Harden, very, very difficult to trust these guys. But if you look at this little pattern that's forming here, when he goes under his point prop at 19.5, he bounces back with 20. Under, over, under. So maybe tonight he finds 20 points, but damn, I don't know if I want to put my money out there, hoping that he does, I think there might be better ways to go. But he's projected for 23.6 points. Yeah, James Worthy, big game James, absolutely. Shout out to the Lake Show. But James Harden at 19.5 points is projected for 23.6. That's like 4 points more. He's at 20.5 out on the sports books. Early indications, according to what we're seeing here, people are feeling kind of optimistic and hopeful that James Harden will find 21 points tonight. They're betting the over at 20.5. What do you guys think? Any faith in James Harden? Let's make this fun. Let's make this interesting. Who do you trust more to go over their points? James Harden or Jimmy Butler? Who do you like more to go over their points props? The beard or buckets? I don't know if I trust either one of them, but if you had to pick one, which one are you picking? Jimmy or James? Kind of hard, man. I think I'm just going to fade both of them and call it a day. Ricky saying he's trusting Jimmy Butler more. Jides also saying Jimmy Butler, he's trusting a bit more. Yeet King's trusting Jimmy Buckets more. D Graves is saying neither one. Keith is saying that Jimmy is most likely going over 25.5 points. Ray's also liking Butler more. Darian says James Harden, to be honest. Darian, you're in the minority, I should say. Darian, you are in the minority taking James Harden. Most of these folks are saying Jimmy Butler, but I don't trust either one of them as far as I could throw them, so I'm going to stay away from both. What about the rest of these guys here? Let's talk about Max Strus real quick, because he was like an automatic under up until the last game. We know Max Strus' struggles against the Philadelphia 76ers just does not perform very well. We could take a look at that real quick to illustrate this point further. Up until the last game where he found 19 points, you look at the previous 8 games, and my man was 0 for 8 at 11.5 points. Here's a question for you guys in the chat. Is this an anomaly? Is this just a blip on the radar, a fluke for Max Strus, dropping 19 points after he could barely find 10 points in the previous 8 matchups against Philly? Do we expect Max Strus to cool way off tonight? Maybe if Kyle Lowry plays, that could impact Strus a little bit. Maybe we look to take the under again. Maybe this was just a fluke. Let's take a closer look at it and see what led him to score 19 points all of a sudden when he was unable to do so in 8 previous matchups. The minutes throughout the series, he played the most minutes he's ever played in Game 1. Since Game 1, 26, 27, about 30. He played about 27 and a half minutes in the last game when he found 19 points. Let's take a look at his field goal attempts. Oh, okay. Well, he shot more in the last game than he has in any of the previous games in this series. More than any of the previous games against Philadelphia, even dating back to the regular season. And he shot 7 for 13, which is by far the best field goal percentage he has had against Philadelphia. Are we thinking this is just a fluke? Or we think Max Strus is going to do it again tonight? Taking a look at his 3-point attempts, he was 4 for 10 from beyond the arc, so he attempted quite a few threes. It was the second highest 3-point field goal attempts that he's had against Philadelphia in any previous matchup this season. And he sunk 4 of them, which was the most makes he's had against Philadelphia in any of their previous matchups this season. I don't know, gang. I want to call this a fluke. Just based on the sample size that we have, I kind of want to say that this is a fluke and we go back to the under on Max Strus tonight. Keith is saying Max Strus ain't doing that again. I kind of agree with you, man. Ricky saying it was a total fluke on Max Strus. I mean, he shot the ball really, really well. Shot it more and made more than he had ever done against the Philadelphia 76ers before. I'm kind of thinking it's a fluke, man. Kevin saying that Tyler Herro is banged up. Check his minutes to compare. Okay, we could take a look at Mr. Tyler Herro, but I don't know, gang. Maybe we go back to the under on Max Strus tonight. Maybe we call this a fluke, or maybe to Kevin's point, Strus did a little bit more because he had to. Tyler Herro was out, or not out, but limited due to an injury. All right, let's take a look here. Strus's projected points, 14.2. The public, for the most part, not touching this prop, not really taking the over or under on any of the sites. There's only one site where I'm seeing any action so far, and it's on FanDuel. They're betting the under, minus 122 to stay under 11.5 points. So maybe you go under on Max Strus tonight if you don't believe that he could repeat what he did in that last game. Now, Kevin's talking about Tyler Herro here at 15.5 points. He's saying Tyler Herro is dealing with some sort of injury, some sort of ailment that is slowing him, that is keeping him from being his normal Tyler Herro self. Well, to start out the series, games 1 and 2, he drops 25 and 18 points. But since then, it's been a pretty nasty slide down. I mean, you see exactly what he's done here. 25, then he drops down to 18, then he drops down to 14 to 11 and 10. So 5 games straight now, game over game, he has gone down on his total points scored. So maybe there is something wrong with Tyler Herro here. Taking a look at the minutes, for the most part in this series, he's playing right around 30 minutes, 25 to 33, somewhere in that range, right? 30 to 33, however you want to call it. But in this last game, he only played 21.8 minutes, less than 22 minutes played. So that is kind of concerning, kind of alarming. Do we have any intel, any info as to why Tyler Herro only played 21.8 minutes? We talked about his scoring going down game over game since game 1 in the series. Well, the field goal attempts are also down game over game in the last 3 games. He only attempted 8 shots, went 4 for 8 from the field, so that's not good. 3-point attempts also starting to trend downward in the last 3 games. Again, not good if you're looking to take any overs on Tyler Herro's props. His free throw attempts pretty much plateaued in the last 3 games. 2 for 2 from the free throw line in all of those. And it wasn't because of foul trouble. The last 3 games, he's only had 1 foul in each of those contests. So Matthew's saying the blowout probably impacted Tyler Herro. His minutes kind of not super stable, but, right around the 30-ish. We'll call it 30-ish. So Matthew's saying that the blowout probably the likely reason why Tyler Herro did not get it done. I'm Rose going back to the under gang on Mr. Max Strus. He says Strus is maxed out. He used up all his superpowers in the last game, and maybe Max Strus is going to go back under 11.5 points. I like it. I don't mind going back to it, knowing that, he struggled historically. Now, Tyler Herro tonight is projected for 19.2 points. I don't know that I'm buying that. I think that projection might be a little high. Double check it on a site like Number Fire, Betting Pros, RotoWire. They offer some free projections out there for you guys to look at. The majority of the public here on FanDuel, BetMGM, they're betting the under on Herro at 15.5 points. With the game not being close, you're saying Herro was not out there to close out the game. Got you. Well, that could be a very plausible explanation for why Tyler Herro did not go over 15.5 points. But I am concerned because we have seen his points game over game, 5 straight games now start to slump, right? We've also seen the 3-point attempts start to slump. So it's not just a one-game, one-off type of situation. Like, it's been a number of games now where his field goal attempt, his points, his field goal attempts, his 3-point attempts, all that stuff's starting to kind of trend downward for Herro. So while the last game might have been a blowout, and that could be a very good reason why he didn't get there, the previous games were probably a little closer, right? But he still wasn't getting the job done. I'm just a little concerned with this guy. I don't know that I can recommend you playing him over 15.5 points. Probably just going to be a fade for me. What about some of these other guys on the board? Anybody else from Philadelphia, Miami that you guys are really feeling tonight? Do we trust Bam Adebayo at all at 16.5 points? Just a quick glimpse. It's been, kind of an inconsistent series for Bam as well. Took advantage in the first couple of games without Embiid. Since then, just 1 for 3 in hitting his points prop. Do we trust Bam at all for points? Good call, Matthew. Thank you for reminding us of the blowout. Appreciate you. Danny Green. Yeah, Danny Green's always interesting to me because of his role on this team. He seems to play better when Embiid's out there. Danny Green, just a 3-and-D type of guy, veteran guy. He's not really going to score too many 2-pointers. He's not really going to get to the free throw line and make a whole lot of free throws. But if you think Danny Green knocks down 3 threes tonight, well, you could take the over on his points. If his points or 3-point prop is at 2.5, maybe you take the over on that too. I think he was at 2 3-point makes last time we saw him on the PrizePicks board. He still is. So I think for me, if I had to choose between his points at 7.5 and his 3-point prop at 2, I think I would rather take the 3-point prop. His game is really, really heavily based on making threes. Like, he's probably going to have to make 3 threes to hit the over on 7.5 points. I mean, he could knock down 2 threes and be at 6, and then knock down a 2-pointer and be at 8. He just doesn't get a whole lot of 2-point field goal makes. But I think this is the safer way potentially to go, being that you could at least tie or push with 2 3-point makes. What do you guys think? If you're playing Danny Green tonight, do you prefer Danny Green points or Danny Green for 3-point makes? Let me know, chat. While you're thinking about it, let's take a look at Danny Green's points at 7.5 real quick. He's not the 1 option, not the 2 option, not the 3 option. He's probably about the 5th option on this team, right? At 7.5 points, he's hit the over in 6 out of 11 playoff games. Excuse me. In this series, he is now 2 for 5, so not the greatest hit rates there either. But when we take a peek at his 3-point makes, we bump him down to 2. He's actually hit 2 or more 3-pointers in 3 out of 5 games against the Heat in this series. So a little higher hit rate when it comes to 2 3-point makes, right? A lot of you guys are saying, I see Kush Ivory saying 3-point makes for sure. Darian, you're liking the 3s on Danny Green. Matthew's liking the 3-point makes a little bit better as well. Chris Cat's liking the over on Danny Green's first half points. Yago saying 3-point makes for Danny Green is probably the best way to go. Yeet King says he shot 2 2-point attempts this whole series. Yeah. So the likelihood of him making a 2-pointer, right, is kind of low. At least if he knocks down a couple 3s, you're pushing it 2, which is better than losing altogether. So I think consensus would probably be, if you're going to take a Danny Green scoring prop, the better way to go would be his 3-point makes at 2 3-point makes. So looking at those 3-point field goal makes, you can kind of see how many 3s he's attempting per game. Game 1, he had 5, then 9, 9, and just 4 and 4 in the last 2 games. But even on 4 3-point attempts, he's found a way to make 3 and 2 in those games. So 3 straight games now where Danny Green's hit at least 2 3s. So that would probably be my favorite way to play Danny Green tonight if you want to play him at all. As far as the projection goes for Danny Green, we'll look at 2 projections. We'll look at his points first at 7.8 projected points, slightly more than 7.5. At 7.5, it looks like he's a betting favorite to go over on most of these sports books. And we're also going to look at his 3-point makes. He's at 2.5 out on the books, but at 2.5, they're betting the under major. Minus 180 to go under 2.5, but he is projected for 2.2. So again, you could end up in a tie or push situation on Danny Green for 2 3-point makes, but that would be a lot better than him finishing with like 6 points or 7 points or something like that, right? And going under his points prop. So I'll take a tie over a loss any day, and I think that there's a good opportunity here for Danny Green to make at least 2 3s. At least 2. Yeet King saying 33 of Danny Green's 35 field goal attempts this series have been from 3-point land. So there you go. Danny Green for 3s. If you're going to take Danny Green, take his 3s. Anybody else from this game here, Philadelphia, Miami, that you guys are trusting? Do we trust Joel Embiid to show up tonight, back up against the wall? He's on the ropes. The Philadelphia 76ers have to win or else it's game over for them. Will Embiid just go completely berserk? I mean, will his field goal attempts skyrocket? Like, is he just going to try and put the team on his back tonight? What do we think about that? Joel Embiid over 24.5 points. Keith, you're not trusting the process tonight? Let's look at Embiid real quick. I'm seeing some skepticism here on Joel Embiid, and for good reason. For good reason. He just hasn't looked quite right. Even when we bump him down to 24.5 points, you take a look at what he's done throughout the playoffs, and you know, I know the MVP is a regular season award, supposed to be a regular season award, but when you look at what Joel Embiid's done in the playoffs here, maybe that's why he didn't win the MVP. I know he's being banged up. I know he's not 100% right now. So I'm going to cut him a little slack. But you take a look at what Joel has done here at 24.5 points, and he's really only hit in 3 out of 9 games. Now, in this series against Miami, 18, 24, and 17. Like I said, I don't want to beat down Joel Embiid too bad because I know he's jacked up. His face is broken. His thumb is torn. I mean, he's just hurt, right? He's hurt. He's banged up. But he's 0 for 3 so far in this series against Miami. So I could understand why you guys may not be trusting the process tonight. Let's just take a look at the minutes and everything from this series so far. 36 in game 1, 38 in game 2, and 33 minutes in game 3. As far as field goal attempts go, his field goal attempts have never been lower throughout the playoffs. 12, 13, and 12. He's not shooting the ball all that much. Now, if he gets 15 to 20 field goal attempts like we've seen him do in the Toronto series, I think there's a shot here for him to get over 24.5 points. One other big piece of Joel Embiid's game that's been lacking is his free throw makes. And maybe that's a symptom of his thumb being kind of jacked up. He did have 8, 9, but then in this last game, he only had 3 attempts, 3 makes. You'd like to see his percentages get up there a little bit higher, like this game where he went 9 for 13. Like to see that, percentage come up from 69% just a little bit. So yeah, there is definitely some concern. The biggest factor here for him not hitting his points prop is the fact that he's only shooting the ball 12 to 13 times per game, and the percentages are definitely not all that great. So volume just hasn't been there for Embiid. But listen, you got to think that with the team needing him, either that or they go home and the playoffs are over. This guy's going to have to shoot the ball more than 12 to 13 times. I just don't see him going out like that, shooting the ball 12 times tonight. I could see a 15 to 20 field goal attempt output for Joel Embiid. Anyway, he's at 25.5 points on most sports books out there. Early indications, well, it's kind of hard to get a read on what the betting public is doing because on a site like FanDuel, they're taking the under. On some of these other sports books at 25.5, they're taking the over. This projection of 34 points, I ain't buying that. I don't think Embiid goes for 34 points tonight. But I could see a scenario where he ends up with at least 25, being that if he doesn't, his ass will be on the couch watching the rest of the playoffs. So, Julian saying that he thinks Embiid's going off tonight. Yago saying he is extremely banged up, so take the under on 24.5 points. I think for me, I'm either going to take the over on this prop, hoping Embiid does some kind of superstar type of thing, or I'm just going to fade it and not test fate. Probably just going to stay away from it if I don't take the over. Could just be a big fat fade. There's nothing wrong with fading a prop. All right, otherwise, I think the last guy we should probably discuss is Tyrese Maxey. I've seen some Tyrese Maxey shout-outs from you guys so far this morning. You all are thinking Tyrese Maxey has himself a good game tonight. Well, let's take a look at what he's done at 18.5 points throughout the playoffs so far. He's 7 for 11, 64%, not too shabby. That's not bad at all. First couple of games without Embiid, he did well in this series. 19 in game 1, 34 in game 2, 21 in game 3. But since that game, it's been down. It's been all downhill from there. 21, then he goes down to 18, and then he goes down to 9. Let's take a closer look at Mr. Maxey here. There was a blowout, obviously, in the last game. So he only played 31.5 minutes. He was definitely a victim of the blowout. The minutes being reduced by almost 10 versus the previous game does not help his case at all, right? So we'll kind of give him a pass, being that the blowout absolutely impacted him. Now, I will say this, despite the blowout, the reason they probably got blown out is my man shot 2 for 10 from the field, just 20% on his field goal attempts. That was probably a factor. The last 3 games we've seen his field goal attempts sort of flatline here at 11 or 10 per game. So we need Tyrese Maxey to be shooting the ball a little bit more. Otherwise, he's going to have to be very, very efficient with his 10 to 11 field goal attempts. Something that he struggled to do in the last couple of games. I mean, 50% is not bad, 5 for 10. But this last game, 2 for 10, unacceptable. If you're planning on taking the over on his points, you're hoping for a much better shooting night from him today. We've seen the 3-point attempts go down the last 3 games. Had 6, shot 5 for 6. We kind of thought that was a little fluky. We didn't think Tyrese Maxey was going to be able to duplicate what he did in that game, going 5 for 6 from 3, and he didn't. He shot 5, went 2 for 5. He shot 4 and went 1 for 4. So we've seen the 3-point attempts drop off game over game in the last 3 games. Free throw attempts, they could be very hit or miss. He's not a consistent guy when it comes to getting to the free throw line. I mean, he could give you 2 as a floor. He could give you a ceiling of 11. Now, that's without Joel Embiid. But free throw attempts are just kind of always all over the place for Tyrese Maxey. So inconsistent, which is, the MO for a young player like Maxey. Consistency is lacking there. But if you think he's got a good game in him tonight, then maybe you want to take the over at 18.5. He is projected for 20.1, which is a realistic projection. I don't think that's too crazy. Like the Embiid one for 34 points, that's kind of crazy. I don't see that happening. But Tyrese Maxey at 20.1 seems more realistic. We're seeing him at both 18.5 and 19.5 out on your favorite sports books. At 18.5, the public's liking the over. They're taking him minus 122. Minus 121 over 18.5 points. But at 19.5, they don't think he's going to score 20 tonight. So they're betting the under at 19.5. So there you go. Yago saying, fade Tyrese Maxey. I got you. We'll fade him then. Let's go down to this next game here. What do you guys think about the Dallas-Phoenix game? Another team whose life is on the line tonight. Their playoff life. Dallas. Who's going to respond for Dallas, if anyone? It's going to be another Luka type of situation where he puts the team on his back, kind of like Joel Embiid. Do we expect Luka to shine bright like the superstar that he is? We got Jalen Brunson, Dorian Finney-Smith, Reggie Bullock. And then obviously on the Phoenix side, they're looking to put Dallas away. Who's going to have that Mamba mentality? Is it going to be this guy right here, Devin Booker? Is he going to look to stick the dagger in the hearts of the Dallas Mavericks tonight? Or is Chris Paul going to finally wake up after a couple of games where he's been asleep in the scoring department? We talked about not being able to trust guys like Jimmy Butler, not being able to trust guys like James Harden or Joel Embiid. Do we add Chris Paul to that list of stars in the playoffs of guys we don't trust? Butler, Embiid, Harden, Chris Paul. Do we add Chris Paul to that list after a couple of bad games? Keith is saying Chris Paul's going under on his points. He's also thinking Devin Booker's going to go over 27.5 points. We know that Devin Booker can get in his scoring bag, especially in the first half or first quarter. Devin Booker always comes out blazing hot. Looks to get himself going early in the game. So first quarter points props for Devin Booker could be a good look. Going under on Chris Paul in the first half on his points has also been a pretty good look. But let's talk about Devin Booker at 27.5 full game points. Full game. Let's see if Booker's got a good game in him tonight with the potential to go for 28 or more points. Now, at 27.5 in the last 8 games, he's now 4 for 8, 50% in the playoffs. In this series against Dallas, he's doing pretty well overall, 3 for 5. Not bad, 3 for 5 hit rate. This game tonight is going to be in Dallas. He is now 1 for 2 at hitting his points prop playing in Dallas in this series. So 50% on the road in this series. But we know what he's capable of, right? As long as the minutes are there, which they have been for the most part, 35 to 40 minutes or more per game. Field goal attempts are always going to be pretty healthy with Booker, around 20 per game. Game 3, didn't really shoot the ball all that much, just 13 attempts, 6 for 13. But if we if we throw that one away and we look at the other games, 19, 20, 22, and 20. So 20 plus field goal attempts tonight should be reasonable for Devin Booker. The three-point makes have been pretty good for Booker as well. The last 4 games, he's hit 3 or more from beyond the arc. So if you wanted to take a look at Devin Booker's threes at 3, he has now hit 3 or more in 4 straight games. That could be a move too. Maybe like Danny Green, you don't trust the points for Booker. Maybe you trust the three-point makes a little bit more at 3. Could be a good look. So anyway, moving forward here, getting you a projection on Devin Booker's points. He's projected for 31.9 or 32 if we want to round up. Excuse me. At 27.5, we're seeing him being bet over and under on some of these sites here. So seems like the betting public's kind of torn. So again, kind of like Danny Green, if you want to take the three-point prop on Devin Booker, that could be the safer way to go, being that he's hit 3 or more in 4 straight games now. What are you guys thinking? Devin Booker for points or Devin Booker for three-point makes? Which one are you feeling more? The over on 27.5 points or the over on 3 three-point makes? Let's talk about Chris Paul real quick. Because I keep going back to Chris Paul. I keep beating my head against the wall. That is Chris Paul and his point prop. And for 3 games straight now, Chris Paul continues to let me down. For 3 straight games now, he continues to let me down. 12, 5, and 7 in his last 3 games. Games played at Dallas, he is now 0 for 2 in this series. 12 and 5 on the road against Dallas. What is going on with CP3? Well, the minutes for the most part have been there for him. He's been getting plenty of minutes, but look at the field goal attempts. For some reason, Chris Paul has stopped shooting the ball. Just out of the blue, out of nowhere, he goes from 13 and 16 field goal attempts to, I'm just going to shoot 9, 4, and 8 times in the last 3 games. He just, out of the blue, hey, I'm going to stop shooting the ball as much. I'm going to start passing to my teammates a little bit more and deferring to them. What's up with that? I mean, look at his free throw attempts. 0 free throw attempts in the last 3 games. Not aggressive is what that tells me. Not looking to be assertive offensively is what that tells me. Hard to trust this guy. But who knows, right? It's the playoffs. Maybe tonight he decides I'm going to come out and shoot 15 times. We haven't seen it in the last 3 games. So if you want to add Chris Paul to your superstar do not trust list, I cannot be mad or fault you for doing that. He is projected for 17.2. It looks like the betting public has lost their faith in Chris Paul. They're taking the under at 15.5 points. Minus 125, minus 120, and minus 130. If you're going to take the under on Chris Paul for points, maybe even the better way to do that is going to be taking the under on his first half points. That's right, Ricky. He cannot score if he does not shoot. I agree with you as well. Julian's saying that he's liking Booker for threes a bit more. Keith is saying it looks like Booker and Dallas is going to go over that 3-point line nicely. I can get down with that. MF June thinks that Chris Paul's saving himself for the next series. What is Chris Paul's rebound prop? It is 4.5 today. As of now, 4.5. So anyway, anybody from the Dallas game that you guys are liking? I know Dorian Finney-Smith at 11.5 points. He's been a little hard to trust. Been a little up, been a little down in this series. But we saw him at 12.5 in the last game. Now he's at 11.5 back at home playing in Dallas. We mentioned Luka Doncic, but Luka for the last 3 games has, well, not been scoring quite as much. Maybe Luka is the guy that we take the over on. I mean, can you see Luka coming out and not being aggressive tonight, knowing that if his team loses, he's out. I think Luka strikes me as the type of player who is going to die on his shield, so to speak. I think if Luka's going to go out, he's going to go out swinging, or in this case, shooting. So I'm kind of thinking Luka Doncic over 31.5 points in an elimination game might not be the worst move in the world. Let's take a quick look at Luka Doncic here. If he doesn't step up tonight, Dallas is done. Straight up eliminated if he doesn't step up tonight. First two games of the series, I mean, he looked unstoppable, masterful, right? 45 points in game 1, 35 points in game 2. Since then, he's been good but not great. 26, 26, and 28. For any other player not named Luka Doncic, we'd look at 26 to 28 points and be in marvel, right? We would be amazed by anybody scoring 26 to 28. But this guy, we set the bar a little bit higher for Luka. So what's been going on in the last 3 games? Well, 44 minutes in game 1. Ton of minutes played there. 36 in game 2. Healthy amount of minutes there. Since then, I mean, he's been playing 34, 37, 35 minutes. The field goal attempts haven't really died down all that much. What I will tell you is that his field goal percentages are absolutely down. Game 1, he shot a whopping 30 times. 15 of 30, 50%. Since then, 22, 25, 25, and 23. Maybe tonight he starts chucking again. Maybe tonight he starts hoisting it up a little bit more. We see him get back close to 30 field goal attempts. But the percentages have been kind of bad here on Luka. So after the first couple of games, looks like an adjustment might have been made defensively. Either that or Luka's just lost his shooting touch. 11 for 25, 9 for 25, and 10 for 23. 44, 36, and 43% in the last 3 games. What's really, really hurting is his 3-point makes. 2 for 7, 1 for 10, 2 for 8. Maybe he needs to cut back on the threes a little bit more and get himself attacking the basket a little bit more. We've seen him get to the free throw line in the last couple of games at 8 and 7 times. It would be nice to see him get back to 14 attempts like he did in game 1, right? I think we see an aggressive Luka Doncic tonight. He just needs to make his shots. The opportunities are definitely there. His field goal percentages are down, however. 32 projected points today. That seems like a reasonable projection. At 33.5 out on your sports books, he is being bet under 33.5. So the public thinks, hey, we don't think he goes for 34, but we could see him going for 33 or less tonight. We're getting him at 31.5, so we're seeing a 2-point value on PrizePicks. 33.5 on the books, 31.5 on PrizePicks. So I like the fact that we're getting 2 points of value. What you guys thinking? Over on Luka at 31.5, or are you staying away? Has Chris Paul been bumped down to 14.5? Is that what you're telling me? Essam? Oh, Chris Paul has been bumped down to 14.5. What are we doing, gang? Essam wants to know, are we still taking the under on CP3 at 14.5? Are you doing it? Are you still taking the under on CP3 at 14.5? No? You are now going to take the over on Chris Paul at 14.5? German says, I'm hammering the over at 14.5. Keith says, I'm still taking the under on Chris Paul at 14.5. What about this dude? Do we trust this guy to bounce back after a letdown in the last game? Jay Crowder had just 3 points. Previously, this man was untouchable with 15, 19, 15, and 11. Do we go back to Jay Crowder after a flop? You know my motto. Go back to a prop after a flop. Sometimes it works out. In the case of Jay Crowder, maybe it doesn't tonight. Let's take a look at Jay Crowder real quick. Let me refresh this thing. See if we got some prop lines for Jay Crowder. There we go. So Jay Crowder at 9.5 points out on PrizePicks. Again, in this series, he was 4 for 4 up until his last game where he scored just 3 points. He had 11, 15, 19, and 15 against Dallas. In 2 games at Dallas on the road, 19, which is a series high for him, and 15, which tied for the second most points he scored in this series. So he had 2 really good games on the road at Dallas in this series so far. He's still 100% hit rate, 2 for 2 when playing at Dallas in this series. Taking a look here, the games that he played at Dallas were the most minutes he's played in any of the games in this series. 35 and a half, and then 35.8, nearly 36. So he played more minutes in the 2 games on the road at Dallas than he did in any of the other games in this series. So that's encouraging. I don't know if he's going to get those minutes again tonight, 35 or more. But if he does, look at what he's done here. 7 for 12 in Game 3 at Dallas. 6 for 13 in Game 4 at Dallas. So not only did he play more minutes, he also shot more field goal attempts in both of those games than he had in any of the previous playoff games. So my man seems to like playing in front of his former Dallas fans, right? Former Dallas Maverick, Jay Crowder. He shot 8 threes in one of the games, 7 threes in another one of the games. So he just was shot happy, man. Jay Crowder was shot happy. I think I'll take a shot with Jay Crowder over 9.5 points after a letdown, hoping that he gets at least 35 minutes. And if he does, that he's going to shoot and shoot a lot like we've seen him do in the 2 previous games, both at Dallas. Now he's projected for 10.7 points at 9.5. He's out on one sports book at 9.5. They're betting the over, minus 125 on Jay Crowder to go over. Yep. Keith, you're right on the money. Former Dallas Maverick, seems like he likes to play in Dallas. I like that. Jaquan says, I trust Jay Crowder more than I would trust CP3 for his points. Hey, that may not be a bad take, man. I'm Rose saying Chris Paul's shooting more commercials than he is shots these days. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Does that ring a bell to anybody over there? What about Jay Crowder for threes? That's been another good prop if you don't want to take Jay Crowder's points. Maybe for whatever reason you think Jay Crowder's just going to knock down some threes. Well, shoot, we don't have Jay Crowder's threes up on the board. But if we do get him later, and he's at like 2 or 2.5, then maybe take a shot on his 3-point makes as well. But I'm going back, man. I'm going back to Jay Crowder at 9.5. Let's jump ahead to assists. Let's talk some assists, gang. I see you guys leaving some other props from some other categories and stuff. Is there any assist props that we should even spend any time talking about? I can tell you this just from looking at the data, looking at the info from previous streams. Devin Booker and Chris Paul are by far leading the Phoenix Suns in potential assists per game in this series. I liked Devin Booker over 5.5 assists, being that his potential assists were so high, but he ended up flopping. Only 2 dimes for Devin Booker in the last game. But now he's down at 4.5 today, making it a little bit more enticing to go back to the over on his assist prop at 4.5. So he and Chris Paul, definitely the 2 front runners for assist props. Obviously, Booker being 4 assists lower than Chris Paul, a little bit more enticing. Luka Doncic is another guy who is by far leading the Dallas Mavericks in potential assists per game. So for that reason and that reason alone, if you wanted to take the over on Luka's assists, I can't fault you for that. It's really going to boil down to if you think the Dallas Mavericks are going to make shots. It's in Dallas. Maybe Dallas ends up making more shots in this game than they would on the road in Phoenix. So if you think Luka's going to be out there dropping dimes, then maybe take the over on his assists. Jalen Brunson at 3 assists. He does a pretty good job throughout this series in terms of potential assists. He's averaging a pretty healthy potential assist number. You could take a shot on him if you wanted to. The best way to find the potential assists for a player is going to NBA.com. What I would recommend, open up Google. Go to NBA potential assists, and it's like the first result that comes back up on Google. So I'd recommend that. Justin, any baseball today? Absolutely. There's baseball every day, man. Every day. Always baseball. But at this point, a lot of the baseball lines have already moved. I mean, I jumped on all my baseball props last night. So you got to be early when it comes to a lot of these MLB props, unfortunately. And I was. Now things have probably moved to a point where they're maybe just a little bit too uncomfortable for me to want to take anything else for MLB. As far as pitching props go, there's still some other like nerfy plays out there. That's your first inning run scored for MLB. I mean, you could look at those potentially. Those don't typically move at all. You could look at some hitter props. I think today's a great day for hitters on MLB, being that the pitchers are so poor in a lot of these games. I could see that a lot of these hitters having big games. So, yeah, I tag everybody in Discord. Ricky, typically, I post them to Discord nightly. Going to these assist props, it looks like Keith saying take Jimmy Butler. Are we talking about Jimmy Butler over or under? For me, are we going to wait and see about Kyle Lowry? Does that impact how you want to play Jimmy Butler's assist, over or under? Might want to wait on Kyle Lowry news before you take any kind of Jimmy Butler assist prop. But Jimmy, again, I'm going to go back to saying what I said before. For me, more of a PRA play, being that it's so hard to figure out what Jimmy Butler can do from one game to the next, what he might do, right? You know, you look at the game logs against Philadelphia now in this series, he's now hit over 5.5 assists in 3 out of 5. The last 2 games, he has hit 6 assists. So you're starting to see what could be a potential pattern here. But then Kyle Lowry might play tonight, and then Jimmy Butler may not have as many assists. It might be more of a Kyle Lowry game. Are you saying that Lowry is confirmed to be out, Yeet King? Is Lowry confirmed out? Or is he still questionable? He was questionable last time that I checked. He's out. Well, then if Lowry is out, maybe we do fire Jimmy Butler up. Again, 3 for 5 in this series. He's now 2 for 2 at covering 6 assists in his last couple of games. So you could go there. I still think I'm going to stick to fantasy score or PRA for Butler, but at 5.5 assists, we're seeing some very strong juice over 5.5 assists, minus 150, minus 140, minus 152. So the betting public is loving this prop, and he's got a healthy projection of 6.4. So you could take a shot on Jimmy Butler over assists. You guys are saying Kyle Lowry is confirmed out. So if he's truly out, then Jimmy Butler over assists, I don't mind. Jaquan is liking some James Harden, but he wants to go under 8.5 assists. Let's look at that one real quick, and then we'll move on to some rebounds. James Harden. We don't trust him to score, but can we trust him to drop some dimes? From the looks of it, nah. We can't really trust him for much of anything these days. He's 6 for 11 in the playoffs, 55% hit rate in this series against Miami. He's got a little pattern for me. Game 1, he went under by a lot. Game 2, he barely went over. Game 3, he goes under. Game 4, he barely goes over. And then Game 5, he goes under. So do we think tonight he pops back up for 9 assists? 9's been the magic number. If he's going to go over 8.5, it looks like most likely it'll barely go over. But he does have kind of this weird little pattern here in this series of going under, then over, and so on and so forth. Now, James Harden unquestionably is leading the team in potential assists. We've looked into it before. He is definitely number 1, averaging more potential assists than anybody else on Philly, which is not a surprise, right? Primary ball handler. He's going to be very much involved in playmaking. At 8.5 assists, just like the Jimmy Butler prop at 5.5 assists, the betting public is smashing the over. Minus 150, minus 145 on some of these books, and he's projected for 10.8 dimes. I'm going to fade it. I'm going to fade it. If you want to take the under, that's on you, but I think I'm just going to stay away from it. I don't love it. Some of you folks are saying Tobias Harris is the move. Tobias Harris is the move. Okay, I see you. Adalbert, you're liking this one? Let's look at Toby real quick. Since Embiid has come back, Tobias Harris's assists have been a little bit better than without Embiid, right? Game 1 without Embiid, he had 1. Game 2 without Embiid, he had 4. Since then, we've seen him peak at 8, 4, but then he had just 0 assists in the last game. So are you thinking that going back to Philadelphia, that maybe Tobias Harris's assists are a good look? I mean, he's hitting more often than not. He's now 3 for 5 in the series. His projected assists are at 3.7, and we're seeing some strong action once again over 2.5, minus 140, minus 134 on the books to go over 2.5 assists. And like Yeet King is saying, he's 2 for 2 at home. Big betting favorite to go over 2.5. So if you want to tail the public who is betting the over on this prop, then that could be a move. All right, let's move on to some rebounds. Any rebound props that you guys are particularly liking? We've seen Bam Adebayo's rebound prop go from 9.5 down to 8.5. Now he's at 7.5. So Bam's rebounds are starting to really come down quite a bit. Taking a look at some of these guys who have been hitting their rebound prop. You got Danny Green leading the way at about a 64% hit rate throughout the playoffs at 2.5. We are getting him at 3, so there's a chance it could be a tie or push situation for Danny Green. James Harden at 5.5 boards, also sitting out there at a 63.6% hit rate throughout the playoffs. His rebound prop is also up at 6, meaning they've bumped it up from 5.5. Strus at 3.5, 60% hit rate. Gabe Vincent, not up on the PrizePicks board, but he's also got a 60% hit rate. Jimmy Butler, 55%. Tobias Harris, 54%. PJ Tucker, Bam Adebayo, both at 50%. Then you got Harrow at 40%, and Joel Embiid at just 22%. Jaquan, you're liking DeAndre Ayton under rebounds at 10.5. He is 0 for something at 10.5 rebounds when he plays at home. But I don't know if I want to take DeAndre Ayton under rebounds on the road. We'll have to look at that one. But from this first game, anything standing out? I mean, I don't know. I don't know that I want to take any of these guys for rebound props. The only ones that look good to me have already kind of been bumped up, like James Harden, Danny Green. Strus, yeah, Strus maybe. Saying Strus looks okay. I mean, he's hit his rebounds in 4 out of 5 games. You could possibly go Max Strus here. I got him projected for a little 3.9 at 3.5. He is a big betting favorite to go over. Minus 150, minus 145. So you could take a little nibble of Max Strus rebounds at 3.5. Take the over. You're saying Oladipo, Gabriel? Yeah, if they put Oladipo on the board, then maybe that could be a move. Danny Green? Yeah, hard to trust that one, huh? You guys are saying Tobias Harris has been selling on rebounds. Yeah, I'd probably leave Tobias Harris alone. Wouldn't touch that one. Tyrese Maxey doesn't really have a ton of rebound upside. We've seen him peak at like 3 rebounds in this playoff series. So probably going to stay away from most of those. You guys are liking some DeAndre Ayton under 10.5 rebounds, though. And that has been one that I have recommended in the past. Let's take a look at that. Ayton at 10.5 boards is 3 for 11 in the playoffs. What stood out to me is that DeAndre Ayton at home, 10.5 rebounds in the playoffs, is now 0 for 6, topping out at 9 boards in the playoffs. So he's better as an underplay at 10.5 rebounds at home in this case, for whatever reason. Away in the playoffs at 10.5, he's 3 for 5. So it's a little bit more risky, in my opinion, to take DeAndre Ayton under 10.5 boards, being that he's playing on the road in Dallas. He is actually 2 for 2, barely covered with 11 rebounds in both games, but still 2 for 2 at covering 10.5 rebounds. So I would stay away from taking the under on DeAndre Ayton, but I also don't feel good enough about it to take the over, being that the most we've seen him get in this series is 11 rebounds. Probably just a fade for me. Emerson's Baby Gap shirt says, smash the like button, people. Thank you, Emerson. I appreciate you looking out, buddy. We've seen guys like Reggie Bullock, Dorian Finney-Smith do pretty well on the rebounds in the series. Reggie Bullock now 4 or more rebounds in 3 out of 5 games against Phoenix. So maybe take a shot on him. Isn't rebounding quite as well as he did in that Utah series. Dorian Finney-Smith, been hard to trust him in this series. He was money. He was money in the Utah series. Some of you folks are saying Jalen Brunson, and hard to disagree with you, right? We've seen Brunson now pull in 4 or more rebounds in 5 straight games. He had 7 in the last game. So if you wanted to take the over on Jalen Brunson at 4 rebounds, I'm not mad at that. He's at 4.5 on the books, being bet under 4.5, minus 150. So you are getting a half of a rebound value here. Projection of 4.6 boards. So yeah, I would say take the over on Jalen Brunson here. At worst, maybe you end up with exactly 4 and you end up in a tie or push situation. So Gabriel, I like it, man. I like that. Jaquan says if they put a McGee line up, I'm smashing the over. They probably will, but usually those role players, those backups and stuff, they usually put them up later. We talked about PRAs briefly. If you're going to play a PRA prop, Jimmy Butler's probably my favorite way to play Jimmy Butler. Either that or Jimmy Butler for fantasy score. I think both of them could be a better route than just playing his points or just playing his assists or just playing his rebounds. Butler's just so unpredictable from game to game. That's why I say that. Max Strus under PRA had been hitting pretty well until the last game. He ended up with 30 PRA against Philadelphia. I think I'm either going to take the under on his PRA or his points. For me, it's probably going to be the points, hoping he doesn't shoot nearly as much or as well as he did in the last game. Otherwise, I don't know that I love a lot of these other PRA props. I know some folks have been taking the under on Joel Embiid at 37.5 PRA. And that's been working out more often than not, as you can see. He's now went under 37.5 PRA in 3 straight games against Miami. So if you want to take the under on Embiid, be my guest. But I am a little concerned that Embiid's just going to say, F it. If I don't do something tonight, then we're going home. And I could see Embiid having a big game. So I think I'm just going to stay away from that one. This guy, though, I'm probably more likely to take the under on James Harden's PRA at 34.5 than I am Embiid. Harden's got the unique gift of kind of shrinking in big moments. And I can see James Harden shrinking tonight. I could be totally wrong, but historically speaking, Harden doesn't really step up, right, in big game situations. So I could see going under on James Harden. You guys are saying first half James Harden. Take the under on Harden for first half. Okay, that could be a move too. I don't mind that. I don't mind some Harden unders tonight. Emerson, are you saying you're taking the over on James Harden's first half PRA? Harden's first half PRA has actually been hitting pretty well. And by pretty well, I mean he's 5 for 5. 5 for 5 in this series. It's the second half where Harden sort of dissolves, right? But yeah, he's been hitting the first half PRA at a 100% hit rate. But I think for full game, I'm taking the under on James Harden at 34.5. This just has Embiid game written all over it for me. And I mean, I could be totally wrong in that analysis. I could be totally wrong on that read. Anything can happen on any given night, but this just seems like it's setting up for an Embiid game. For better or for worse, I just don't see Embiid going down like a punk. If he's going to go out, he's going to go out swinging. Kind of like I said with Luka, these guys are different. You know what I mean? They're not just going to fade away like James Harden. Anybody from the Phoenix game that you guys are liking for PRA? I know Jay Crowder's PRA had been hitting very nicely up until the last game. Crowder for PRA, Crowder for fantasy score could be another option. I like his points playing in Dallas tonight. I think we can go back to his points, but PRA and fantasy score for Crowder, I think should also be something you consider. Can't really trust Reggie Bullock in this series. Hasn't been great. Maybe Jalen Brunson. Kind of hit or miss with him. I know some folks have been taking the under on Luka Doncic's PRA, and you can see what he's done in the last 4 games. He's gone under 49.5 PRA in all 4 games. But again, kind of like the Joel Embiid situation, I just don't see Luka going down like a punk tonight. I could see him shooting 25 to 30 times, and if he's hitting the PRA, he's going to go over. He's going to go over it. So I'm just going to stay away rather than take the under on Embiid or take the under on Doncic. I just don't want to test it. SM saying take Tyrese Maxey under first half PRA. What's that looking like? 12.5? Okay. I mean, the last 3 games, 3, 9, and 9, he's definitely been going under. More often than he's been going over in this series. He's under in 4 out of his last 5 games. So you could do that. Seems like Harden gets his in the first half, and then maybe Maxey comes around in the second half. Embiid for first half points. Yeah, you can't really touch that one. 1 for 3. I mean, unless you just think Embiid comes out like a bull tonight. Which could very well be the case, which is why I'm not touching Joel Embiid. Any unders on Joel Embiid. We talked about Chris Paul under first half points. He's at 7.5. I mean, for the most part, this has been hitting pretty well. CP3 under first half points at 7.5. You can kind of see the hit rates here. Just 1 for 5 in the series. So going under on his first half points has been working out pretty well. Devin Booker's a guy who likes to come out and score pretty well in the first half. You can see kind of what he's done here. 3 out of 5 games, he's hit over 13.5 first half points. So we'll see if those trends continue tonight. What else? I mean, we've talked some 3-point makes already. I like Danny Green, and it seems like a lot of you guys like Danny Green at 2 3-point makes. I think Devin Booker, if you don't trust his points, I think you could go Devin Booker for 3 3-point makes. We've talked about his last 4 games where he's hit 3 or more. Looking like a pretty good move. I could totally see that happening. Strus is pretty much a 3-point specialist. In the last 4 games, he's hit in 3 out of 4 at 3 3-point makes or better. Finney-Smith and Bullock have been guys that we've taken the overs on their 3-point props. Dorian Finney-Smith is now 4 out of his last 5 at 2 3-point makes or better. So you could go there if you want to. Reggie Bullock also 80% at 2 3-point makes or better. So I think either one of these guys could be considered here. Again, we're going back to Dallas tonight. I think these guys are probably more comfortable shooting at home than they are on the road. So I don't mind you taking the over on Dorian Finney-Smith or the over on Reggie Bullock's 2 3-point makes. Luka, last 3 games, just hasn't been trustworthy from 3. Probably wouldn't go there. Harden, maybe, but not for me. Yeah, Gabriel, I think you're right. I think Bullock and Finney-Smith will probably have a better night shooting tonight playing at Dallas. So I don't mind that one. Free throw makes. We've seen James Harden pick up his game a little bit in the last few as far as getting to the free throw line. He did have a bad game in the last one, but the 3 previous ones, he had 7, 8, and 9. Don't know if he's going to be aggressive. You just never know with James Harden. Booker's not looking great. Jalen Brunson. Maybe take a stab at Jalen Brunson. He's hit 3 or more in 3 straight games from the free throw line, so you could go there. We talked about Chris Paul has not gotten to the free throw line in 3 straight games, so I'm probably staying away from that. Jimmy Butler's got upside when Jimmy Butler's looking to be aggressive and attack, but who knows, right? Luka, the last couple games, we're finally getting him way down at 6 free throw makes. With Luka's playoff life on the line tonight, I could see Luka being very aggressive, and I could see 6 free throw makes being totally feasible for him to hit. So I could see Luka coming out aggressive and getting to the line, maybe getting some favorable calls in front of the Dallas fans, possibly some superstar calls. Both of these guys right here, 2 of my favorite stock options. What are stocks, steals, and blocks? So Mikal Bridges, you can see what he's been up to. 4 out of his last 5 over 1.5 steals and blocks. He's a defensive nightmare, so I like him. He always gets his hands on the basketball. Jay Crowder does a pretty good job too. I would favor Bridges though. I think bigger picture, he's got the higher hit rate than Crowder. So I don't mind you going there. Kind of a crapshoot. I mean, either one of these guys could get a block, but aren't known to be big-time shot blockers. Bam, 2 out of his last 5. Ayton, also 2 out of his last 5. Probably just going to fade both of those. Let somebody else figure out that. Seems like a trap. Jimmy Butler at 1.5 steals. Had done pretty well up until the last game. He found 1 steal in that last one, but maybe you go back to it tonight. Could go back to that one. Strus, nah, staying away from that one. So if you're going to play any of these, it'd probably be Butler over steals. It would probably be Bridges over 1.5 stocks. And then you guys are talking about some turnovers here. Lau, what is it that you're liking about the turnovers? We've seen high usage guys. Those guys that typically lead their team are very high in potential assists. We've seen those guys also be good overs for turnover props. So maybe a guy like Chris Paul, he's going to have the ball in his hands quite a bit. He's one of the top potential assist guys. I look at potential assists because those who have the higher potential assists per game, like a Chris Paul, who's like 10 to 12 potential assists per game, right? It means he's going to be basically the quarterback. And it's kind of like the NFL if you think about that. The more passing attempts that a quarterback has, the more times he's going to drop back and throw the football, the more opportunities a defense has for sacks, interceptions, and turnovers, right? Kind of the same thing here. The more potential assists that Chris Paul has, the more opportunities that he'll have to turn the ball over. Now, turnovers can come off of a bad pass, thrown out of bounds, thrown to the other team. Turnovers could come with a guy stepping on the line, out of bounds line. It could be traveling. It could be an offensive foul. So anyway, Chris Paul at 2 turnovers, that seems pretty doable. I like the over on that one. Luka at 4.5, probably just a little bit too rich for me. I'd probably stay away from that. I like Chris Paul over a little bit more. Jalen Brunson, I mean, he's going to be a pretty high usage guy. He's going to be a guy who typically ranks in the top 3 for Dallas in potential assists. So again, he's going to have the basketball in his hands quite a bit. You could take a shot at the over on him. Booker's another guy who's, right up there with Chris Paul in potential assists, meaning he's going to have high usage, have the basketball in his hands quite a bit. I prefer CP3 over 2 turnovers than I would Devin Booker at 2.5. Embiid, the numbers kind of speak for themselves. You can see what he's done 3 out of his last 5 games. he's going to touch the ball a lot. Maybe his little hurt thumb will cause him to turn the ball over a little bit more. A lot of these other guys are hitting at just like 3 out of 5. So, yeah, I mean, I would take a shot at Chris Paul. I could see him either being a push at 2 or going over. He might be my favorite one. But that's about it, guys. I think we've covered pretty much everything there is to cover on today's 2-game NBA slate. So hopefully what we've discussed today leads you to the winner's circle. If you're in Patreon, if you're in Discord, I'll be digging into some more MLB props, seeing if there's anything left out there. I need to look at the hitters because, again, I think for MLB today, it looks like a great slate to take some overs on some hitters in good matchups. There's a lot of poor pitching out on the mound today across the board in the Major League Baseball area. So I'm going to be looking at some hitters. I'll post some hitters props for you guys to consider. And other than that, it looks like it's going to be a night of some NHL, some NBA playoffs, some MLB, maybe some CSGO. I mean, we got a lot of different sports hanging out up on the PrizePicks board. So definitely check them out. Good luck to everybody out there. I hope tonight's a profitable night. Let's get the money. Peace.